Right now, more than ever, there is a massive test for a lot of different people in the way of leadership. Whether we're talking about natural disasters and floods, whether we're talking about big political games, wartime, leaders right now are being asked to step up in the face of adversity. And there's some big challenges right now that a lot of people completely misunderstand when it comes to how you need to lead through adversity. So let's get stuck in right now. So let's get stuck straight into this. Leadership. We're not going to go through this kumbaya, jelly beans, rainbows and unicorns, all about leadership and being better leaders and all of this type of stuff. Let's dive straight into the guts of this and let's make it really evident about what's actually happening around us right now. Let's have a bit of a look at some of the adversity and challenges that some great leaders and not so great leaders are being faced with, and some of the things that I might say might be a little bit controversial to some people, but hear me out because it does make sense. It is completely true. And most of the time, when people actually stop and think about it, they realize, I shouldn't be making some of those comments and statements because it's a little bit far from the reality. So without further ado, let's get controversial. No, I'm not going to get controversial, but here's the thing. We all know that leaders ultimately, there's a couple of things that we know to be true, right? Leaders ultimately need to have a circle of safety. They need to be able to, number one, help their team, lead their team, guide their team, protect their team, right? We know this. Simon Sinek does a great avenue on this many years ago in Leaders Eat Last, all around that whole circle of safety, etc. So that's one of the main jobs of a true leader. But one of the things that is very topical around leadership right now is the war with Russia invading Ukraine. And I've seen a massive amount in the last 2 or 3 days with people, particularly on social media, sharing pictures of the Ukraine president, Vladimir Zelensky. I'm pretty sure that's how it's said. A little bit maybe more accent, but that's as good as you'll get from me. And so here's the thing. What Zelensky has done a lot, he is obviously, he's got a lot of guerrilla tactics behind the scenes, right? They're working very much against the Russians with diplomatic ways. They're working on sanctions. They're working, here's the thing, they've even changed street signs to, and I won't use the words, but well, I'm happy to. They turn around and say, get effed. Go to hell. And they've changed all of the blue and white street signs so that as the Russians started to invade, they would actually get directed. So it wasn't actually telling you where to go on streets and towns and things like that, which has actually created a lot of disconcerting and slowdown for the Russian invading troops. So they've done a lot of very crafty, clever little things. But one of the things that Zelensky has actually done a lot of, he's gone to empower the troops, right? And so he's gone to show strong leadership, and he's picked up a gun. He said, we're going to fight them in the streets, and off he goes to the front line. Now, let's be completely honest about it. A lot of that is just a bit of bravado. It's just a little bit of pump everyone up, and he's got the response that he aimed for. Now, I know might sound like the bit of the controversial part right now, but let's be completely honest. His background is he won Dancing with the Stars in the Ukraine. He was an actor who played the Ukrainian president in a series, and now guess what? He is that. He's been a comedian in the past, etc. Now, I'm not downplaying him, and I'm certainly not criticizing. I think he's very noble. I think he's amazing with what he's doing. He's shown great leadership. But what I find ironic is the fact that there is a lot of people on social media sharing pictures of him holding a gun on the front line with soldiers, saying things like, we wish we had a leader like that in our country. or how great a noble man he is going and fighting with his troops on the front line. And we've got all of these people that are trying to portray him as this amazing leader because he's gone and ultimately picked up a gun and gone to the front line and fought with the troops. Now, let's stop and have a think about that for a moment. Is he adequately trained? Is he the best person to be on the front line? What is his actual job as the president of his country? Now, I think this is where a lot of people don't actually understand the real role of a leader. They don't actually understand what a leader should be doing in a tough situation and the adversity that the Ukrainian president is facing right now. And I just find it very interesting that people have a completely misguided understanding of people in leadership positions and what they should and shouldn't be doing. Now, another great example of this was about a year ago or a year and a bit ago when, Australia was on fire as such. The world's biggest single ignition blaze in the history of mankind started literally from a burnout from the Rural Fire Service at the back of a friend of my daughter's property in the Blue Mountains here. All right, so it was very close to home. I don't want to get into the details of it and all of that type of stuff, but it was horrendous. We had fires everywhere. We lost planes, we lost lives. It was unbelievable. But again, in that situation, we had a lot of people criticising the Prime Minister at the time and currently right now, Scott Morrison, ScoMo, were criticising him because, he wasn't on the front line, because he was out, schmoozing people. He was out, kissing babies and going out to, rural fire stations and passing on moral support. And there was people out there saying, if we had a true leader, he'd be out there fighting on the front line and things like that. Well, the real challenge is this. To put it simply, if you think that the Prime Minister of Australia should be picking up a fire hose and going onto a fire front with the RFS and the fireys and stuff like that, then you've completely misunderstood and you have no concept of what a leader actually is meant to do in a crisis or when adversity hits. So yeah, I am going to be quite critical of people that want to make those stupid statements because it's absolutely ludicrous. If anyone thinks that the job role or the best thing that a Prime Minister of Australia should be doing is picking up a hose and fighting a fire front, then it just shows in many respects you're a half-wit and you have no concept of what leadership in adversity is about. And so yeah, I might be a little bit controversial saying that, but no one in their right mind can honestly believe that. And so we come back to Ukraine and Russia. It's the exact same thing. The last thing, if you've got someone who's an amazing leader, is strong in their conviction, they're noble, they've got integrity, they understand the circle of safety, they understand the inner workings of their country, they understand what they are best needing to be done to lead and guide their country and their personnel and their ministers and work with the economic sanctions and the diplomatic process and work with NATO and all of these scenarios, then quite clearly a leader should not be picking up a gun and trying to make a Molotov cocktail on the front line with soldiers as a way of showing you're a good leader. Now, I know it's all a publicity stunt in many respects and to try and pump up their troops and those type of things. But I think many people feel that this person is noble when they do that, or this other person has great integrity and maybe we should have that. But just remember, the people that are holding that opinion about what leaders should be and shouldn't be doing in faces of adversity and big challenges are normally probably the people that are least able to make guided and constructive input in and around this subject matter. So, what should a leader be doing in adversity if you're dealing with a major challenge to the business, a major challenge to your health and medical business? Well, here's the thing. You probably need to make sure that we really guide our team. We need to control the narrative. We need to make sure we lay down a circle of safety. We make sure that we have great communication, and we make sure that we're understanding of what's happening. We want to make sure that our team around us is very much across what we're saying, what we're doing, what the logical next steps are. We need to absolutely lead from the front, but that doesn't mean we physically lead for the front and we're the first person to run into battle against an invading force. That's not the right thing, because the vast majority of the time in any situations like this, the person who is then running in at the front is not the best person in that situation. They aren't the person that's most adequately trained for that role or that task that's being completed. So although it might be very noble to do or to feel like, or comment on and encourage others to do the Braveheart thing, they can never take our country and, run down the hillside and lead everyone into battle. Let's be honest, a good leader just doesn't do that. A good leader is able to rally the troops, excuse the pun, is able to rally the troops, get the most out of people, understand what their role is, understand that they are best placed to complete their task and objectives as they need to, without deviating from their genius mode into other areas where other people have specialties. So if you have a business and you've got 5 or 6 team members, or you've got 25 team members, think about what your role is and where you can add the most amount of value. Think about what the team is needing right now. Think about what they ultimately want and need from you as their leader. Think about the ways that you can lay down that safety net. Show them about the circle of safety and what you guys will bring together by acting in a certain way, by doing certain things and moving forward together as a team. Blindly running off with bravado to, show someone this, or to prove a point, or to, dive into another area that is not your genius mode is never the best way. And it's always fraught with danger and normally ends up in disaster. So, if you're a leader, or we want to talk about leadership any other way, always think about the different styles of leadership, which we won't go into in this podcast, but think about some of the ways in which you can best lead from the front and lead from example without having to physically be the person at the front in a war zone, right? How can you control the narrative? How can you lead people? How can you make people feel supported? How can you best put the foot forward for everyone in the business and the team as a whole without having to stick your neck out in an area of stupidity? Because like the examples of wars in Russia and Ukraine, or prime ministers going onto the firefront battlefield, if you honestly think that that's what leadership is and that's the difference in a good leader and a bad leader, then you really don't understand what leadership is at all. I know you do. Let's make sure we're good leaders in adversity. Let's make sure we don't fall for those traps and the angst of those people that don't really understand it. And let's make sure that we become stronger leaders. We lead in the right way. And when we're faced with adversity, we lead appropriately in firm and fair way and create an avenue for everyone to move forward together. I'll talk to you again very soon. Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Profitable Practice Podcast. I would love nothing more than for you to be able to leave a review. I get so much joy out of listening and reading the amazing things that you guys say about this. So please subscribe to our channel, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let's get some more fantastic information out there so all of us can grow the industry together. Cheers for now.